It is so lovely to see y'all once again. Hello and welcome to the Cup TV, your personal pipeline for any sort of reality TV content you could want, and where the tea is always served piping hot. My name is Jack, and in case you're wondering why this is so late and why my memory's a little bit fuzzy, uh, I had to go deal with a butler out of state. It's a long story, but I feel very refreshed, like I've given a second life. Don't worry about it. It'll make sense later. But I am here today covering the 7th episode of the Genius Game, our penultimate episode, where we are going from 5 players down to 2. 60% of the cast is leaving today. I'm genuinely very shocked, but I am so ready to see how these final matches turn out. Both of them are brand new to a degree, and we will have to see how it goes. But before I get started and recap this masterclass of an episode, I do have a couple things to tell you about. First, if you enjoy any sort of reality TV topics, such as, The Genius, or maybe you like Survivor or Big Brother, whether it's international or in the US, or maybe you're more on the one-off shows like The Snake or Destination X, we cover as much as we can right over here. So please feel free to subscribe to us down below. The button did just glow rainbow, so it's Pride Month. Are you not gonna click it? But please also consider giving us a like and hitting the bell so you can get notifications on any time we post. In addition, if you like, for example, drag content or WWE or Eurovision, we have channels for all of them. If you head into our description, there is a link tree with all of the info for that. So please, if you want to, feel free to head over to there. All channels are looking to hit 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. That way we can give y'all even more amazing content. While you're down there, if you prefer to listen to us on the go on a bunch of different streaming platforms, feel free to jump to our audio podcast. We are on almost every single audio podcasting platform that you can probably imagine, so please feel free to follow us on there as well if you don't want to watch us in video form. And if you are interested in potentially buying a lovely cup mug for yourself, there is always the description below at lanagcreations.etsy.com, where you can pick up your own lovely mug. And finally, if you enjoy my escapades talking through this entire season, or just want to follow us on social media, you can follow me at Jack the Flop on basically every platform except for Twitter, where you just add TTV to the end. And you can follow the Cup Pod on most platforms as well, using the link tree. But with that said, I say we get into today's episode. Now, we come into today with 5 players left. I know the graphic on the right says 6. I refuse to put a game over Allison because she survived so many death matches, and I want to give her that credit. So that's why that happened, and it isn't a technical error, and you can't prove us otherwise. But we have 5 players left in the game. Ben, Ken, Charlotte, Bodalia, and Bex, all fighting for 2 spots in today's final. How today generally works is that you must win either the main match or the death match in order to move forward. However, there is a little bit of an issue with the main match, that you don't want to get last place, because if you do, you go home immediately and don't even get to participate in a 3-way death match to see if you can make it to the end. So Simply put, win the main match, and at the least, don't be last in it. And if you don't win the main match, make sure you can win that death match. Otherwise, your game is simply over. Now, we do get a couple of quick walk-ins. We have Ben and Bodalia coming in together and talking about this being the end of the game and not really knowing what they want to do. Bex comes in, Charlotte comes in, Ken comes in. They're all nervous and unsure of what's happening. Now, behind the scenes, players were kind of told certain things as revealed by Ben, where they were kind of told, okay, so 4 of you will be in the finals, and then a little bit after, actually only 2 of you will be. So all of them are unsure about how this finale situation is going to occur, how anything drops down. None of them have any information. And we very quickly jump into the explanation for our final main match of the series, being Media Moguls. Now, Media Moguls is a game that is relatively similar to ones that we've seen in the past, being investment and donation. Essentially, in my opinion, it's a better version of it. But let's simply go through it. So, at the start of the game, every single player receives £100,000, and by the end of 4 rounds, your goal is to have the most investor tokens. There are 4 companies you can invest in: newspaper, radio, social media, and TV. And in any round, players can write a check to invest money into that company as long as they are still allowed to. Each player does receive 1 blank check per company per round to write on, meaning that they only have 1 thing that they can write on, and once they submit it, it is final. The values on these checks must be between £1 and 100k. You cannot split it into decimals. Checks must be written at the podiums at the end of each haul, and each check is processed in order of most money to least money per player, with alphabetical order breaking ties in terms of companies. It's not super clear if that's the actual method. We find out that it's very relevant later on, so just parsing it and trying to figure out what happens here. If a check uses more money than a player currently has in their bank, it is bounced. And the player who invests the most amount of money in each company receives an investor token for the round. I want to specify that this can be split among multiple players, so if the highest is £300 done by 3 players, all 3 players receive an investor token. The other way, the player who invests the least in each gets knocked off the board, meaning they can no longer invest in that company for the remainder of the game. And this as well works the same, where if 3 players were to invest 300 and they were all the lowest, all would be immediately knocked off the board. Now, no actual money amounts are stated throughout the game. The only thing that is stated is who wins and loses on each company and who can still bid on said company. At the end of the game, and this is the weirdest description I can give, but it's the only one that makes any sense. If you have investor tokens for multiple companies, you earn 1 bonus for every one you have besides the original. So for example, if you have 1 in 3 different companies, you get 2 bonus tokens. If you have 2, you get 1, and if you have all 4, you get 3. I don't really know how to explain it better, but neither did the show. So the player who receives the most amount of tokens by the end of the main match advances to the final match, with a tiebreaker being the amount of money that they have left over. It's unclear because it doesn't seem to come up. And the player with the least amount of tokens at the end of the game is immediately eliminated, ignoring a DM. They just go home right off the bat. The remaining 3 players are all forced into the death match, where one of them will come out alive. So we have a very interesting scenario where players are now very incentivized to not play as a team. A lot of the time throughout the series, and I think it is potentially just a matter of how the British public views everything in terms of betrayals. We saw this early with traders. They're not so willing to do all of that very publicly, unlike some other countries like South Korea and the Netherlands, who kind of accept it all as a game. It seems just like in Britain that team play is a lot more common. So this is finally a round where we are going to see that kind of be forced to be broken, as whoever is dead last is going home. So unless everyone gangs up on one person and then gangs up on another person and then decides to play individually, it'll be fine. Foreshadowing can be really obvious. So there is a little bit of a note here of Bex saying in a lot of interviews that her move last round with Diamond Dilemma accidentally screwing over Allison and essentially sending her home versus making sure that one of Ben, Ken, and Charlotte would be sent home really had been weighing on her, and she kind of was done and was looking for an escape path. Uh, and the minute that she kind of heard that, hey, kinda you can go home without playing a death match, she very much was at least interested in it, according to her own words. So she very much just publicly states, hey, I'm just gonna put 50 into radio and then I'm gonna work from there. It does seem like there's a little bit of a change, though, as Beck says, actually, I'm going to put 3 in and then see what I can do to trick the others into, like, screwing up, basically giving out public information and then having it be very wrong. Uh, However, she doesn't exactly keep this to herself. She tells Bodalia what she's planning to do, as she's worked a lot of this game with Bodalia. And just a small problem. Everyone else decides, hey, if we can all just target Bex here because she's seemingly out of it, we can all guarantee we at least face a death match. So let's knock Bex out of the game. So everyone almost immediately formulates a plan on the side. Ben really pitches it of investing 24.5K into each of the 4 companies, leaving them all with just about $2,000. More than likely, Bex gets one of the categories. And that means for the rest of the game, she can score a maximum of 4 points, being the 4 investor badges from all future rounds. However, she then gets outlawed from the remaining 3 off the bat. Everyone else, however, scores 3 from the 3 remaining companies, and then 2 bonus chips from the multiple investment bonus that comes at the end of the game, meaning that Bex is automatically ruled out and is essentially eliminated off the bat in round 1. Which, yeah, no, this is just a strong capitalization of the rules. Do I love the fact that there is a strategy that can directly throw a player out of the game in a semi-final match like this? But on the exact same note, Bex has a lot of counterplay here. She only submitted 3 for She only submitted 3 for social media, meaning she can outrule everyone else if she plays her cards right and basically guarantee herself a win. This is a game about kind of pushing forward when you need to, and Bex definitely has the option to outright win here if she wants to. Now, this group of 4 is basically ad hoc of, okay, this is everyone left in the game, let's just screw over Bex, but Charlotte is worried of Ken. Bodalia is worried of being betrayed. Ben is very paranoid here. We're looking at a group that is very much together because they have to be. And we slowly begin to see everyone place checks in and everyone is being honest, and Charlotte's like, hey, check Ken's check really quick. Let's just split off into groups of two to keep each other accountable. We have Ken and Charlotte splitting off into one side, Ben and Bodalia splitting off into the other, and everything almost goes right for them. However, Bodalia decides at the last minute possible to change his TV check from 24.5 into 24.6, giving himself an edge and knocking everyone else out of TV. Now, I do agree that this is smart if Bex actually went through with the 50K. If Bex goes through with the 50K, social media is gone. Bodalia capitalizes on TV and has the other two. So in that case, Bodalia probably at least has a good shot of winning this main match because he can just invest one in TV for the remainder of the game and is absolutely fine. Well, actually, no, because everyone else is not submitting the same. But basically, Bodalia has a really good shot at least earning a lot of control in the game versus other people. But we do get the results of round one. Bex is the lowest investor in every single company, meaning that she is forced to earn nothing. And because everyone else earned something, Bex is basically immediately eliminated. It sucks to see someone go out like this, to just be like, oh, well, this match is decided and Bex is done, but we have 3 more rounds to play, so Bex, you can just hang out in the back here and like listen to other people talk while we play the game. That sucked, but at this point, it seems like Bex is very happy and he's like, okay, I'm done. Great. I can just relax and have fun and spectate this game in real time. And I'm happy that Bex got out of this what she wanted. She was a really enjoyable player to watch. She was a really good foil to Ben of like, no, I'm going to play the team game and I'm going to call you out for like trying to control things. And I really can't complain about her overall trajectory. I don't think she really wanted to go to the finals. I think she got what she needed to out of this game and then bowed out for the other players, which on one hand is like, kind of wish that Allison was here because I don't think she would have done that. But on the other hand, that's how the game works. So we then move into round 2 with 4 players left in the game. Everyone is looking at Bodalia like, did you really need to like capitalize on all of our mistakes here? Essentially, Bodalia is 2 up because he has all 4 companies compared to the 3 that everyone else has. Bex did not submit high enough for any company, so everyone scores successfully on newspaper, radio, and social media, and Bodalia scores alone on TV, but everyone left can invest in any of the 4. So immediately Bodalia is like, hey, sorry, just panicked. I was sure that someone was going to pull something. I needed to protect myself. Can we like talk about not screwing me over? Ken is like, yeah, you know what? Let's talk. Let's see if we can make this work. Ben and Charlotte look for a way to get everyone back on the same page, which is confusing. At this point, you've already made sure that you are not going home. At most, one player can win. Why are we still using a team strategy? Like, are we really... It's confusing to me how this ended up playing out because yeah, I get you could team up on someone and knock them out, and that's like, okay, one of you can win this match, the other three are going to the DM. I just play individual at this point. Make deals with each other, try and outpace each other. Don't try and even each other up for some reason. But there's at least a pitch of everyone just goes equal on news, radio, and social. And then the other three besides Bedalia put in one on TV. Bedalia puts in nothing. And then everyone just rips up the TV check for the future rounds, meaning that everyone gets knocked off the board in round 3, and they play a 3-horse game in round 4. Yeah, no, Bedalia doesn't agree to this because he already has a lead. He's not gonna not do it. Obviously, then Ben and Charlotte are like, okay, he's not agreeing to it, let's screw him over. In my personal opinion, it probably was best for Bedalia to agree and then just screw everyone and just be like, well, I'm ahead of you now. We're now going to play round 3 and round 4 a lot more individualistically. But at this point, it's like Ken is off to the side, working with Ben and Charlotte, trying to prioritize his own safety. They all decide we're just going to screw Bedalia here. We're going to make sure that he's essentially outlawed from the other 3 categories. And they all decide we're just going to put $664 onto news, radio, and social media. And we're just going to give Bedalia TV. We don't need it. And if we all just stick together in rounds 2 and 3, there's no way that Bedalia can beat us, and he's going to be damned to the death match, and there's nothing he can do about it. Which I guess, but like, 2 more of you are going to be going down there. Are you going to play this like even card until you literally have to? The answer is yes. It's really confusing. And I will note that for some reason everyone is concerned about having money left over. There's nothing in the rules that's publicly stated about how you need to have $1 left over because otherwise they would have given you $999,999. Like, I don't know why everyone thinks they have to have $1 left over. Maybe it's tie-breaking purposes. Maybe it's something weird that we didn't get explained to us. Maybe it's a misclarification among all players. But everyone just decides, okay, we're just going to do 663 on radio and just lock that in. And Bedalia puts 800 into TV to try and keep it, and then puts 51 into everything else, and just prays that the others are panicked enough not to do anything. So, we get round 2, and yeah, no, Bedalia is essentially screwed here. He's now perfectly tied with everyone else. They all have 6 tokens with 2 additional down the pipeline, and Bedalia has 5 tokens with all 3 bonus tokens possibly earned in his possession. But Bedalia is now knocked out of newspaper, radio, and social, meaning he can only bet in TV for the remainder of the game. And everyone, and Ben, Charlotte, and Ken can all bet in newspaper, radio, and social media, meaning that round 3 is very simple for them. As long as they want to, they can just decide, let's just invest in all 3, keep it easy, and then we go from there. Essentially, Bedalia is the deathmatch candidate unless one of Ben, Ken, or Charlotte screw each other over. And I have doubts that that's going to happen at this point. So, this round is really short because it is just like Ben, Ken, and Charlotte looking at each other and going, well, let's just play the field. We're going to make sure that we have $6. We're going to just make sure we have $9 left over for the final round, and we can fight it out then, but let's just make sure that Bedalia is confirmed for deathmatch. seemingly because there's a slight disadvantage for being dead last, which, if that was told to players, great. We don't know that. But we just see a continuation. Ben, Ken, and Charlotte all earn 3 tokens for newspaper, radio, social media. Bedalia earns 1 for television. Bedalia is confirmed as the deathmatch candidate. We move on to round 4, where Bedalia just gets to submit 1 into TV again, and he ends the game, which means we're really down to Ben, Ken, and Charlotte for the final match spot. So, at this point, all 3 of them look at each other and go, well, now we play individualistically, I guess. And they see if they can devise a strategy. And Ken almost immediately says, hey, you know what? I'm gonna just like start this so it doesn't turn into like a Mexican standoff where we're all waiting for each other to do something. I'm just gonna go throw $3 into social media and y'all can deal with it from there. Signs the check. They're like, oh no, he's playing us, he's doing something different. Just finally shows the check at the very end and then boop, right in. And this immediately sends Ben and Charlotte spiraling of like, great. What do we do now? Ben and Charlotte run off. Ken goes into a back room with Bedalia and Bex, and we don't see their conversation, which is interesting. But we do get Ben and Charlotte now stressing over what they're going to do and how they're going to play the game. We do get like notes of like Ben saying, why would he do that? All he's doing is putting himself in a worse position moving forward. And it's so obvious that Ken is doing something, but Ben and Charlotte are being duped, are not catching the rule. And they talk for a little bit. Ben is like sketching out like a bunch of diagrams on how this round could go. Charlotte puts 4 into social media, 1 into... I'm trying to remember it offhand here. I think it was 1 into radio and 0 into news. And we don't really see the rest of it. Everyone is panicking. Charlotte's spinning in a corner as the countdown is going down. Everyone's basically cheering like it's New Year's. Ben is freaking out in the corner, and everyone locks in their final bids. Ben says, fine, I don't think I did this right. I put 4 into social media and did nothing else. Charlotte put 4 into social media, 1 in radio and nothing. And Ken put 3 into news, 2 into radio, 3 into social media, which bounces. You know, they paid for extreme ways and used it on Ken earlier. No, they used it on Bedalia earlier. When they should have used it here. Because this is potentially the most genius play we've seen this entire series. We get a lovely little rewind of Ken's conversation with Bedalia and Beck saying, I don't think they've caught the rule entirely of what happens with bounce checks. I'm going to submit 3 into news, 2 into radio, and then the 3 in social media will bounce because I only have 5, because I won't have enough left over. So I'm not sure. The weird thing is I'm not sure exactly how the tie-breaking rule occurs because Ben states it as it's alphabetical, but we've heard information that it may not be. I don't know exactly how it works, but Ken essentially gets it right. It seems like it's alphabetical within a reasonable degree, and the first 2 checks go through. Ken seemingly only has $1 left in his account, so a $3 check doesn't clear. Ken successfully bluffs the others out, He snatches up newspaper and radio, getting him a win on his own, with both Ben and Charlotte getting social media because they both put 4 in, attempting to block him out. And that's the end of the game. Ken ends up winning with 13 total tokens. Ben and Charlotte get 12. Bodalia ends with 10, and Bex gets 0. We do just see Bex kind of walk off, drops her garnets, and leaves. I was kind of hoping she'd get to at least spectate the death match. Like, at least give her the shot to. Because Ken's going to be on his own, like, in a room just like, this is entertaining. There's no one to bounce it off of. I think it would have been fun, at least, because, like, just give him a buddy. He's gonna be there for like 2-3 hours. Especially with the game that's being played. Now, of course, we do have our DM players at this point of Ben, Charlotte, Bodalia. Bodalia is dead last. Ben and Charlotte are tied above him. I want to say that Ben is technically placed higher. Just because of a tie-breaking rule, but it's never really declared or seems to matter. So, we will see. But, our deathmatch right now is Dice Deception. Now, a lot of us thought this was going to be Liar's Dice, and it kind of is, but also really isn't. In Dice Deception, the goal is to light up all 11 numbers between 0 and 10 using combos of dice that you are declaring. Each player gets 2 fair dice between 0 and 5, essentially just traditional dice, just move down 1, and receive 5 bluffing tokens. On each turn, going clockwise, players roll both dice. In round 1, we start with Bodalia, and then we have Charlotte and Ben for turn order. Starting with Bodalia in turn 1, and then going clockwise for the remainder of the game, players declare the sums for their number and must put up at least one of their dice. There's a reason I say at least, and it comes up later. Once all players have declared their numbers, players have 10 seconds, seemingly, but it's kind of ignored later on, to doubt anyone by placing a doubting token next to their die. If a player is fully out of doubting tokens, they can use a single garnet one time as a 6th doubting chip. If a player isn't doubted, the number that they claimed is locked in and they don't need to reveal anything else. However, if a player is doubted, they must reveal their other dice. If the sum is different from the actual sum of their 2 dice, they do not score the number that they claimed, and the accuser also gets to knock 1 number off their number line, excluding 0 if they have it. However, if it's the other way around, the accused gets to lock in their number, and they get to take 1 number off of the accuser's line. Now, there is one other special rule with 0. If 0 is ever locked in as a sum during the game, it cannot be removed for any reason. And for 0, the penalty for incorrectly accusing someone or correctly being called out on a doubt is losing 2 numbers instead of 1. Once again, at the end of the game, whoever can successfully first get all 11 of their numbers lit up wins. In the event that multiple players would be getting their numbers lit up at the same time, the player earlier in the turn order wins. So this one is weird because, like, we see very early setup for this game of the first couple of rounds, players realizing a crucial strategy, and then we jump forward to like turn 20 basically. I will say I want to give props to the actual construction team behind this, because this prop for the table itself is so cool. And also the Media Moguls board. It's very simple, but it is very nice, and I love it so much. Uh, all of the assets in this game have been really good, and I'm happy that they've taken the Genius style on their own. It's just that this feels like that final counter hook of like, oh my god, y'all have really done some amazing work here. Ken pulls his chair up directly from the TV like a kid watching Saturday morning cartoons at like 9, just like eating in front of breakfast. I wish they would have gave him like popcorn or something. And we do get the confirmed order of play being Bodalia, Charlotte, and Ben. We start in round 1 with Bodalia putting up a dice that has a 1 on it and saying 1, which is truthful. We have Charlotte putting up a 1 and then declaring 0. And then we have Ben putting up a 1 and declaring 0. Both Ben and Charlotte locked in on the strategy of people aren't going to want to waste their bluffing tokens this early. I'm going to lock in the combo that seems impossible and can't be broken and can't be removed. Let me just lock that in to make sure I only have to ever get 10 numbers and I won't have to worry about an 11th. And Bodalia immediately goes, oh my god, of course. Of course y'all have immediately figured out a strategy that can, like, dominate this game. So everyone locks in their first number, and we see this beginning development of this match seeming to be Ben versus Charlotte, both trying to get Bodalia to support them and trying to get a win through Bodalia. Bodalia seems like he's more nervous of Charlotte going forward because he thinks she's a better player than Ben. So he's kind of trying to play into making sure Charlotte doesn't win, but also wants to win himself. And we see a little bit of strategy here of players going back and forth of like, okay, can you work with me here? Will you not screw me? Let's make sure that we're all good. And almost immediately, we jump forward in time. There is one rule development that ends up getting spotted just by the cast in general, where they can decide, oh, I'm just going to place both my dice up on the counter. There's no rule against doing that. You can do it at any point. It just doesn't allow you to bluff anymore. And it's a really good defensive strategy, as well as players figuring out, oh, I can just say a number that I've already declared, especially by putting 2 numbers up. It essentially just guarantees you don't want to come after me because all that will happen is you'll be penalized. Players over time begin to shoot at each other, and by the time we hit a very close end state with Ben seemingly trying to escape or just win for the first time, we have Ben on 3 tokens, Charlotte on 2, and Bodalia with nothing left in the tank besides his garnet. Now, we get a position here where Ben is essentially declaring his last number. And Charlotte says, hey, look, I'm going to block Ben here as long as you agree not to block me in the future and you'll help me make sure that Ben doesn't win. And we see this kind of conversion where Charlotte's like, hey, I need to make sure that Bodalia is not playing with Ben here. I need to make sure that we're all playing a unique game because I can't win this game 2-on-1. Which I think is a general problem with a death match where if you can go 2-on-1, it doesn't really work. In this game, we do see that alliances are kind of forced to shift where players are basically putting each other in check repeatedly of, well, I need to block this, but you're not going to block it, so I guess I have to. And we see that Charlotte decides, like, hey, I'm just gonna block Ben here and keep it even. And I mean, Charlotte could have declared, like, just being safe, trying to get Bodalia on side. It doesn't make as much sense, in my opinion, what Charlotte does here. Trying to remember it offhand because I have it in my notes and my brain is partially fried. But there definitely is a move here of basically forcing other players to use their bluffing tokens. The more bluffs that you have in your back pocket, the better. Ben is blocked here. He has to take down a number. And now Charlotte is in check. And Bodalia basically looks at Ben and says, I'm not blocking this. I have only my garnet left. Of which he's like, hey, when do we pull out the garnet? Dealer's like, pull out your garnets, people. We know where we're getting to at this point. Just pull it out. Bodalia has his garnet left over. And now Ben is being forced to burn repeatedly. He's burned on Charlotte. He's burned on Bodalia. He's burned on Charlotte. And suddenly, we get into a position where Charlotte is now back in control of this game. Bodalia is kind of on side, but still wants to win. Charlotte has to block, I want to say, Ben in order to get down into a position where everyone only has their garnet. Everyone only has one shot left. And Charlotte looks and goes, oh, well, funnily enough, now I'm in the position where I'm first in the turn order, and all of us are trying to escape at the same time. All of us only have a garnet. And essentially, there are 3 win conditions for each player. If Ben can't block Charlotte. Because if Ben blocks Charlotte, then Ben's just going to get blocked in the next round and it won't really do anything. Because Charlotte will just have a free piece and can shut him out. Bodalia needs to block Charlotte, but make sure that Charlotte can't block him because that's the only way he wins. And Charlotte needs to make sure that she isn't blocked by Bodalia. So at this point, Ben is basically like needs both of them to screw each other over. Bodalia needs Charlotte not to react fast enough, and Charlotte needs to not be screwed over by Bodalia. It's essentially a prisoner's dilemma, which is an interesting state for this game to end in. All 3 of them kind of look at each other, all declare. We tick down time. Tick, tick. And before Bodalia can drop his garnet, time is up. Bodalia drops it maybe half a second later, followed by Charlotte. But it's not fast enough. And Charlotte wins this death match, sending out both Ben and Bodalia. And that is the end of the game. It's very weird because Bodalia was very much in places of control this entire season. I can't exactly tell where he was. He made a good move, but didn't go far enough. He could have secured his own spot in the finale this round, but simply didn't see it far enough. Ben has played a very loud and controlling game the entire time, and at the end of the game, can't control a player to get him a win, which is an irony that is not lost on me. But it is impressive that Ben essentially is almost domineered in his strategy of like, yeah, no, I'm just going to be loud and right and force everyone to do what I need to. And having that much social control is really interesting, especially this late into the game where he could essentially pitch a strategy to shut out Bex and then pitch another strategy to shut out Bodalia. But Charlotte, the person who's been underestimated this entire series, is now in the final because she managed to successfully manipulate and play her cards right. And it's really satisfying, at least from my opinion, to go like, yeah, no, Charlotte killed it. So I genuinely cannot be happier to see that Charlotte played such a killer game this entire season. And then we have her up against Ken, someone she's been fighting against this entire time, where Ken has played very domineering strategies, and even the only time he was sent into the DM was a game that he was already fine with because he's a poker player against Masha. Like, Ken has Ken has earned his spot via trickery and well-played moves, and Charlotte has earned her spot via being underestimated and playing things from the bottom, even though she literally won the first round. But our finalists will walk into next week in a classic 3-round final. We at least are seemingly getting another round of Gilhop, or Same But Different, and we are seemingly getting a game that is similar to Black Hole, which is a game that we've seen a lot in Genius servers, just like as a good concept, because it's a really good psychological DM, psychological and strategy. And it seems like it's somewhat reversed because the board is not perfectly shaped and the pieces are triangles, not hexagons, and seemingly the 10 pieces being played first. I don't know exactly how it's going, but it does seem like this is going to be a very interesting final match. We don't necessarily know what game 3 is going to be right now if it's played. My guess is probably Poker Face once again, just because poker DMs are really satisfying for a game 3 if we are going to play it. But on that note, that is all I have. Thank you so much for hanging out with me nearly through this entire series. I will be back in just 2 days to end off Genius Game UK. I do hope there is a shot at another season, but even if there isn't, it seems like certain players on the cast may be strategizing their own way to make their own production. This has been a really enjoyable ride, and I hope I will be able to see you for next week where we end it off. But until then, if you've enjoyed this lovely recap, and I mean, you've been here for like 48 minutes, I would really appreciate it. Please feel free to hit that subscribe button. Once again, hit the like and the notification bell. If you're listening to us on a audio platform, please feel free to follow us on there. And if you want to hear more about those audio platforms and maybe find them, you can feel free to head to our link tree below in order to locate them. In addition, if you like drag content, WWE, or Eurovision, we have channels for all of them. So please feel free to jump to those YouTube channels and subscribe as well. The closer we get to 1,000 subscribers, the better, because once we hit it, we are going to be able to produce a lot more interesting content for y'all. In addition, if you have enjoyed me or my conversations on this topic, I am Jack the Flop on most social medias, and just add TTV if you're looking for me on Twitter. And if you're looking to follow the channel in general, you could follow us on the Cut Pod at almost every single social media platform. If you're looking for them, they are always in the link tree below. And finally, our lovely cup merch is always available for you at alanagcreations.etsy.com. Once again, that is alanagcreations.etsy.com, where you can buy our lovely cup mugs for any of your drinking needs. But with that said now, I'm going to go get a refill of my own. I want to thank you for hanging out with me for this long, and hopefully I will see you next week for the finale of Genius Game. Cheers, and hope to see you soon.